Leroy Ward, Executive Vice President with ESI International. And last month, I brought together a group of my colleagues, experts in the field of project management, adult learning, and marketing, to discuss what they are observing across our client base. A client base that stretches over 40 countries. My colleagues represented Canada, the United States, and Brazil, UK, Europe, and the Middle East, India, Singapore, China, and Australia. And the results of our discussion are ESI's top 10 PM trends for 2012. At ESI, we're not futurists. We're not trying to predict the future. We leave that to the Nostradamuses of the world. Hey, if I could predict the future, you know where I would be right now? Of course, I'd be down at the racetrack. I'd be betting on the Daily Double, the Superfecta, the Trifecta. Not that I go to the racetrack more. The trends that we have identified are actual activities that our clients are now doing that we think will gain momentum over 2012. So as they say in the airline business, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And don't forget, join the conversation on my blog, wardwired.com. That's wardwired.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts. Let's talk about program management. It's a very special topic for me. You know, program management has been around a long time, especially in the U.S. government, and in particular, the U.S. Department of Defense. I myself had a very classic training in program management, having worked for the U.S. federal government for 17 years. But it's a new concept in many commercial organizations and a lot of industry sectors. Why do I say this? Because over the past several years, I've had numerous client conversations in which the subject of program management has come up. And when I probe as to, well, why are you talking about this? They tell me these kinds of things. First, the initiatives they're working on are larger. They're larger than they've ever been. They're a lot more complex than they were several years ago. More people, more money, more locations, for example. And they find that they lack the work processes, the methods, and the tools in order to execute on these particular initiatives. And the people assigned to do the work seemed not to have the types of skills and competencies required to address the many challenges that these initiatives create. So what are they doing about it? Well, in our conversations, we see that they're investing in program management in three different areas. The first that they're doing is they're investing in the development of program management methodologies. In the past 2 years, we have worked with 3 clients to help them develop program management methods. The second area that they're working on is they're defining competencies for the individuals assigned to do this particular job, which is why Ginger, Levin, and I wrote the now bestseller, Program Management Complexity, a Competency Model. After 6 months of research, Ginger and I identified 6 performance competencies and 8 personal competencies for an individual who is assigned these large tasks. And the third area that these organizations are working on is they're attempting to develop their talent, but in innovative ways. I'll give you an example of a client that we have in India. Very well known, very well respected IT outsourcer who has 200 program managers spread literally around the world. They can't bring these people together in a typical and traditional instructor-led training classroom. So working with ESI, we have developed a blended approach to learning where each individual, wherever they are located, will get the necessary training and professional development they need to be successful. Look at your projects. Look at your work initiatives. Are they in fact projects? Are they larger than they were before? Are they more complex, more people, more money, more locations? Chances are you're not working on a project. You're working on a program. In 2012, more organizations will be asking these questions. Chances are the answer will be yes. If in fact it is, they need a new approach, a new perspective to get the job done. One very interesting aspect of project management is that it really doesn't change much from year to year. You may debate me on that. I welcome it. I think there are 2 areas, though, that do change from year to year, and they do evolve. Leadership theories that we use in PM, and tool usage, meaning software. What we're seeing is a proliferation of collaboration software out there that project teams are using. I'll give you an example of Microsoft SharePoint. I think is something that many teams are using to enhance their productivity. You know, with virtual teams the norm in many organizations today, the best way to communicate with stakeholders and to retain version control is to have a single site and where all of the necessary and relevant documents are housed. We can share those documents from that site, we can distribute them, we can protect those documents with user authentication. All in all, this type of approach enhances team productivity. Look, the next PM conference that you attend, when you walk into the exhibit hall, just scan the room. Take a look at the names of the exhibitors and companies that are there. I bet you will find, as I have found, that software providers are a very large percentage of all of the exhibitors in that space. They outnumber all companies by a very large percentage. Go up and start talking to these folks and ask them about the collaboration features that they offer as part of the software. And I think you're going to find, as I have, some amazing advances in what companies have done with their software. Today, it's all about collaboration, and it has to be. After all, PM is a team sport. Having the right software will grease the skids of collaboration, putting you not just ahead of your own game, let's say, but ahead of your competitors. If you're still emailing documents to everyone around the world, you better adopt a better and different approach quickly. Train is pulling out of the station, as the old saying goes. You better be on board. But let me do this back on the job. If I heard that once, I heard it 1,000 times when I was actively instructing for ESI. Those words come from the participants, of the delegates who come to our courses. Why on earth would they say that? They say that because they realize that in order to do what it is that we have presented, it's going to take a bit of time to apply it. And they feel that they're not supported when they get back to the job in order to apply the new skills and competencies that they have learned. You know, in my 37 years of experience in project management, and I know I don't look that old, I'm very well preserved actually. What I have learned is that project managers are a creative group. They will do anything to get the job done. They are highly adaptive creatures, if I can use that word. I mean, what do we want them to do? We send them to training so when they do go back, they do apply it. They want to apply it. We don't send people to training for a vacation. Those days are gone. So at ESI, we're trying to do something about this. In the past several years, we've been thinking better and differently about how to help people apply what it is that they've learned back on the job. The first is, we tell our clients, stop thinking of training as an event. It ain't. It's a process. Here's what we mean. Before someone comes to one of our sessions, we want them to do an assessment. We want to see where they are with their level of knowledge and skills. We want them to talk to their manager about the objectives that they're trying to reach as a result of coming to the course. Then they come to our session, whatever that session may be. It could be a live training class, it could be web-based, it could be virtual classroom. We offer many different modalities. Then when they get back to the job, we encourage them to talk to their manager once again so that the manager can reinforce what it is that they've learned and help them apply it. We will also send them a post-assessment so they can see how far they've come with their knowledge base from before they came until after they've attended our particular program. We've also come forward with what we call an impact workshop. Think of it this way. You come to a 2-day class, but then on the 3rd day, you bring your own project to the room in which you are applying what it is that you've learned in the first 2 days to your actual project. And it never ceases to amaze me how effective that process is. And as we describe this process to our clients, in particular those folks in learning and development, they say, yes, yes, you're onto something, this is great stuff. But yet they don't do it. Why not? Everybody is crushed for time. Speed kills, as the old saying goes. Or they lack resources. Or people can't attend that 3rd day because of the pressures that they have on their current projects. All I can say is that more than 15 years ago, we worked with one of the largest Bell operating companies in the United States. And they did a survey of their training effectiveness. a third party did it. After 8 months of surveying, they came in with a binder this thick, and they dropped it on the desk, and it made a very loud noise. Because when you hire consultants, when they deliver reports, the amount of money that you spend should equal the thud that the report makes when it actually hits the desk. 2 key findings in that particular survey. First is, this Bell operating company earned 200% on their investment, but they would have earned more had the managers reinforced the learning that the project managers picked up in the classes. Organizations not reinforcing learning when people come back to the job are leaving a lot of money on the table. And who on earth in these days can afford to do that? You know, it's very clear to me that Agile has moved from manifesto to mainstream. The very mention of the words Agile and waterfall together in a sentence would send the signers of the manifesto into apoplectic shock. Think of Coburn, Highsmith, Schwaber, and others. They were dead, they'd be rolling over in their graves. After all, Agile was created to slay this waterfall dragon, the dragon that produced huge amounts of documentation, cost and schedule overruns so big a calculator couldn't come up with the numbers, and functionality that simply missed the mark. Hey, the great self-proclaimed song and dance man Bob Dylan once wrote many years ago, times, they are a-changing. They are a-changing when it comes to Agile. Organizations today are on the hunt. They're on the hunt for the next silver bullet, and Agile looks like it. Agile looks like the promised land in a way for software development. But organizations can't implement Agile all the way for a variety of reasons. But rather than abandon the attempt, they are morphing many of the practices of Agile with waterfall development. Waterfall, which has been around for a very long time. And they are creating, as a result of this morphing, a hybrid approach. You know, a hybrid. Think of a car. Think of a hybrid car. Most hybrid cars aren't good to look at, but they work. So organizations seemingly are making this work. In areas such as planning, requirements, team communications, organizations are designing a custom method to do what works. And there's a lot of interest in this. My great colleague, Nancy Nee, spoke at a PMI conference just this past year on the subject of Agile and waterfall and this new hybrid approach. You know how many people showed up? 800. Yes, 800. When she was done, they carried her out on a sedan chair as if she were a monarch. Go to our website, esi-intl.com. Nancy's got 2 webinars that she's done out there, which are free, and yes, you can get your PDUs. As a great colleague of mine and consultant, Jim Foreman, always says, there's a pony in there somewhere. If you're in the business of software development and you haven't employed or at least tried some part of Agile, you are so far behind the 8 ball that the late, great Minnesota Fats or the tremendous Jen Lee, a great billiard player, won't be able to help. Project management, business process management. What's the connection? Well, in the financial services industry, and in particular in the insurance business, these days it's a key to getting a project approved. Look, we all know and love, don't we? We love project management. But what exactly is BPM, business process management? Well, let's first define what a business process is. It's very simple. It's the way we do our work. It's a series of steps that we go through to, for example, process an insurance claim, to hire an instructor at ESI, for us to apply for a credit card. It's any identifiable process in which a person or persons, as the police say, person or persons, use to achieve a business result. BPM then is an approach to analyze the steps of a process, to either develop a new process or improve an existing one. And there's a lot of time and money that can be saved by examining very closely current business processes. In your organization right now, I guarantee there's a lot of money to be saved on inefficient business processes. We're not immune from that either at ESI, and we have an initiative underway to take a look at many of our internal business processes. In the financial services industry and in the insurance business in particular, they've been doing this for a while, not brand new. They're closely examining their business process with the goal of improving them, but not just improving them, to drive down their operating costs. And in 2012, there will be a continued laser-like focus in that industry to do so. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, BPM is fast becoming a key factor in project selection. Projects are being approved based on how much costs are being driven out of the business. The more a project will reduce internal costs, the higher it's going to be ranked. The smart money in 2012 is all about driving costs out of the business. Given this BPM premium, project managers are advised to know what BPM is all about. Other than knowing how to spell it, what do you know about BPM? As I record this today in our headquarters office in lovely downtown Arlington, Virginia, there are 470,000 plus PMPs around the world. It is by far the most ubiquitous, popular credential on the planet. And it demonstrates for those who have earned it their dedication and commitment to the profession. But it's not a slam dunk. People study long and people study hard to learn. There's a seismic shift going on in how the PMP is being viewed by organizations and federal agencies alike. No longer in many, many organizations is the PMP viewed as the pinnacle credential. Rather, it is a part of a hierarchy of internal credentials. And so in a way, it's been overshadowed. Why have organizations done that? It's very simple. Organizations want their project managers to learn their way of doing business, their methodologies, their tools, their way of doing business on their particular projects. The PMP, they say, provides a good baseline, but it's too generic. They want a customized credential. And the only way to customize a credential is to do it yourself. And that's exactly what they're doing. But these organizations do recognize and acknowledge that the PMP is very valuable. And so they have embedded the PMP as part of a hierarchy of internal credentials. In other words, in order to achieve the highest level of credential in a particular organization, one must earn the PMP. So its overall status has not been diminished. In fact, I think it's been strengthened by becoming a foundational credential for many organizations. You can also earn more money if you have the PMP. In PMI's recent salary survey, this is exactly what they show. Those who have the PMP simply earn more money than those who don't. So really, what's not to like about it? And the PMP is the price of admission in many organizations. You have to have it in order to even apply for a position in a lot of organizations, industry sectors, worldwide. So while the PMP is not quite the competitive differentiator that it once was, you will be placed at a distinct competitive disadvantage if you don't have one. My advice, get it and maintain it. Let's talk about PMO metrics. Do you ever notice metrics that some PMOs use to demonstrate value and progress? They'll use such things as the number of people using a particular tool, methodology implementation across the organization, or an increase in the number of PMPs. Look, while these are important metrics to the PMO head and a few other folks, they don't resonate at all with executives. You want to judge the business value of your PMO, you have to know what to look for. Metrics that are meaningful to executives. Metrics such as a reduction in the number of troubled projects, an increase in a time to market for your company's products, an increase in customer satisfaction scores, or the number of successful projects based on time and cost. Some other organizations attempt to use the next level of business metrics, which would be revenue and profit. Now look, that can be a difficult stretch to associate project management with revenue and profit increases in many organizations, but those organizations who truly are a project-based business, it's not that much of a stretch at all. But certainly the holy grail, what people are looking for, the absolute holy grail of the connection between project management and improvement is project management implementation and stock price. And while there are some random examples of this, there are way too many factors that affect the price of a company's stock, that it's not worth the time or effort to try to draw the link between PM and stock price. You take an example of a corporation that might be able to do this would be the IBM Corporation. For the past 10 years, their stock price has steadily increased. And I know for a fact that for the past 10 years, they have been heavily involved in investing in improved project management. I know this because we at ESI were a provider of project management services to IBM for many years. But you would be unsuccessful in trying to justify their increase in stock price with their implementation of project management alone. I can say this about conversations I have with executives. Most of them, 99% of them, are not focused on the stock price and PM because they know all of the other factors that affect the price of their stock. But they do want more meaningful metrics than, let's say, how many project managers are actually developing work breakdown structures for their project. That has little, if any, meaning to them at all. What metrics do you use? Do they have meaning for your business? If you live in the West, and what I mean by the West is North America, Europe, or the UK, you hear a daily drumbeat of discouraging economic news. If you're in India, Brazil, or China, you're not hearing that kind of news. So we know that the global economy is uneven, and so is employment. But if you are a project manager with quality experience, it's almost irrelevant where you live, because the demand for experienced project managers remains strong. Let me give you 4 data points to back this up. The last PMI conference I went to, there were more than 6 global Fortune 500 companies and large US federal agencies looking for people. They were desperate for project managers with quality experience. These are good jobs, decent pay, interesting work. Number 2, I belong to 20 LinkedIn groups. And every day I receive updates from these LinkedIn groups, and each of the updates down at the bottom, there's the job section. Let me tell you, unless it's all fiction, there seem to be plenty of jobs available. Now true, many of these are posted on there by recruiters, and they may be project-based jobs, in other words, not full-time jobs, but they're out there. We just need to search a little bit harder for them. Number 3, in the latest PMI salary survey, Mark Langley, the president of PMI, is quoted as saying they're seeing a huge demand for IT project managers. And the 4th data point I'll offer is my client conversations, especially with organizations in China and India. There's tremendous growth in those particular countries and in that region. And as a result of that growth, there's also, unfortunately, very high attrition because people are moving from job to make more money. And they can do that there because that's just the nature of their economy. So there's a robust job market, but it is unbalanced. And I agree. It's very hard to pick up and move. But the point I want to make here is that project management as a profession is growing in importance as its value is being demonstrated in all industry sectors. So my advice is stay ready for the future. Improve the quality of your experience. Take on projects of larger scale and complexity. Go global, go virtual. Get your PMP. You never know, do you, when opportunity comes knocking on your door or when you have to go knocking on someone else's. In project management, it's all about the client. Now look, I have to admit I was dismayed, I was heartbroken, I was crestfallen when PMI dropped the triple constraints from a guide to the project management body of knowledge. Because it is and remains a measure of performance for many, many organizations. 2 weeks ago, I was with an energy services company, talking about issues that they had with their projects and with their large initiatives. And this is exactly what they're measured on in their contracts. They're measured by the triple constraints. And it is the measure of performance for scores of organizations working on industrial mega projects, clients in our Middle East region, for example. Mega project, $1.7 billion. It's the core of their decision making. But regardless, isn't the core to success of any project what the client thinks of about the results? Isn't what the client thinks, not what the numbers say, that determine success? A growing number of people seem to think so. Here's the question. Can a project come in late and over budget and still be successful? Many people say absolutely. Why? Because the project should be measured on the value delivered. And value doesn't necessarily mean the lowest cost or the fastest time. Now, while this may be a trend, I think it may be more of a trend in the literature than in real life. I'm really not sure. Time will tell. I think it's always wise, though, for a project manager to uncover at the outset what the client deems important, so we can do a good job of scoping. Because if we have a good scope, we're going to have better estimates as a result. And if it all lines up, it's a real win for everyone. Remember, the concept of value means different things to different people. But in project value, value is always determined by the receiver, by the client, not by the provider, the project team.
Perfect. One more time.
Walt Wriston, former CEO of Citibank, once said, if you have the right person in the job, you'll never get hurt. But the wrong person in that job, there's no way to save yourself. We know there is a robust job market for experienced project managers, but even hiring experienced project managers is a challenge. We want to make sure we have the right one. But we can look at their experience, we can look at their references, we can look at credentials that they may have earned over time. How about if you're hiring an entry-level person into the PM field? How do you know that that person is going to be a good fit? You can't give this person a traditional knowledge assessment. It's unfair to judge someone on a base of knowledge that they absolutely don't have. So we have to look for something else, the intangibles, their personality characteristics, to see whether or not they would make a good project manager. Our clients in Asia have this challenge. In my recent visit to Singapore, Malaysia, and China, I spoke with many HR heads who told me that they are in fact looking for a tool. They're looking for an instrument, an assessment that will help them make the right hiring decisions. What they have in mind is this. They have this tool, they give it to somebody, they fill it out, they grade it, and it says, yes, this person would be a good project manager, or no, this person needs to go off and do something else. Now, one way to do this, of course, would be to identify the characteristics of high-performing project managers and then assess the entry-level person on that. But that is fraught with some danger. We need to be careful because there are certainly many variables that will go into whether or not someone is going to make a successful project manager. For example, I have heard more than once in my career people say this: extroverts make the best project managers, never hire an introvert. I completely disagree. I, for example, am a raging introvert. My initial reaction to anything social is, I don't want any part of it. I want to go off and be by myself. My wife kiddingly calls me a sociopath. Yet I've had some very good success in my career as a project manager. I think we're a long way from a silver bullet. If it were that easy, we'd have it already. The best way to judge whether someone will be a good project manager is to put them on a team, give them responsibility, see how they interact with the teammates and with the stakeholders. There is no test which is a substitute for real live performance. Well, thanks very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to have you. Let's keep in touch. Let's continue the conversation. This is Leroy Ward. WardWire.com is my blog. I'm all over LinkedIn. I'll connect with darn near anybody. And I also have a Twitter handle too, @WardWired. Hope to meet you face-to-face at the next PM conference.